From being a descendant of British nobility to quitting acting school because of Al Pacino, here are all the secrets Charlie Cox doesn't want you to know about. Keeping your identity secret might be a common part of Daredevil's job, but the superhero version can't hold a candle to Charlie Cox's real ancestry. The youngest of 5 children, Charlie Thomas Cox is actually a descendant of British nobility on his father's side. That's right, your neighborhood vigilante has royal blood running through him. While Cox himself is English, he's got a bunch of prominent Scottish ancestors, including baronets, earls, as well as members of parliament. There's even a connection to the Royal Navy captain Frederick Lewis Maitland. And if that wasn't enough to convince you that he comes from a line of impressive family members, Cox is also distantly related to Andrew Elliot. For those of you who didn't pay attention in history class, Andrew was the British colonial governor of New York in 1783. It looks like Cox really is meant for a place among thespian royalty, if this ancestry is anything to go by. Thanks to his English roots, he's the very first non-American to portray the character on screen. Previously, we've seen Ben Affleck in the 2003 movie adaptation, and Rex Smith as Matt Murdock in NBC's live-action television film, The Trial of the Incredible Hulk in 1989. With the Netflix series, the 40-year-old actor became the first non-American to take on the iconic Marvel role. Initially, he was worried that the decision to give the role to some random English guy wasn't going to sit well with the fans, but he had nothing to worry about. US audiences were totally charmed by the first non-American to step into the role of the Man Without Fear, with Daredevil getting a massively successful response with its debut season, even if he was the random English dude who had never read the comics. Yep, watching Daredevil, you'd probably never be able to guess that Cox had never actually read the comics before auditioning for the hit TV series. When actors go for these superhero roles, it's kinda easy to assume that they'd be interested in the opportunity, since they're longtime fans of the character. But with Cox, it was quite the opposite. He wasn't at all familiar with the character, but since playing him on screen, he's become a massive comic book fan. Well, better late than never, right? The actor revealed that he was stunned by the impressive quality of the scripts, whether there was a superhero angle or not. Now, reading the comics before filming probably would have been a better idea, since it would have saved the actor from one heck of a surprise. Charlie Cox had no idea that Matt Murdock is blind. As he was preparing to audition for the role, his agent forgot to tell him one key aspect of the character he was about to portray. Yep, it's hard to believe that a lot of details like Murdock's hair color and profession were revealed to Cox for the tryout, but the powers of the universe somehow left out one crucial detail that Daredevil cannot see. The English native only learned about this incredibly important detail barely a day before his audition, mostly thanks to a friend of his who was really into the comics. Phew, that was a close call. Considering that Charlie is also the type of actor who enjoys a good challenge, perhaps this whole situation made him even more determined to win the role. I'm sure glad he did, because can you imagine anyone else playing the role of Matt so effortlessly? And it only looked effortless to us on screen because of Cox's incredible commitment to the characters he plays. After he accepted the role of playing blind Matt Murdock, he realized he had a problem. He had no idea how people without sight moved, or how they got dressed, or even where the eyes were supposed to be at different times. At this point, he decided to spend time with a blind consultant to mimic the eye movements of a sightless person. Having tried to act out some of the scenes as Murdock on set, Cox claimed that while he was able to put on a shirt, he couldn't look at where the buttons were because Daredevil wouldn't know where they are. But he can't fumble either because he has to convince his audience of living this sightless life. It was definitely becoming one of the most difficult on-screen roles he's ever had to portray. Including the services of a blind consultant to learn as much as he could about blindness was a genius move on his part. The actor watched their every movement, from how their eyes scanned the room at various times to how they'd perform everyday mundane tasks without making them look cumbersome. He even filmed the whole experience so he could play it over and over again until he got it just right. Cox also went to lengths such as performing certain tasks while blindfolded so he'd get the hang of it, and wore special contact lenses so he wouldn't be his normal, fully visually capable self at all times. He really took his time on set because he wanted to be consciously aware of the fact that he wasn't making silly mistakes, like looking at things when picking them up, or being aware of his eye movements when in a room. Wow, talk about commitment. While he was super committed to really becoming Matt Murdock, his commitment wasn't always this fiercely strong. He quit acting school because of Al Pacino. But hey, it was for the right reasons. Despite his acting ambition being stifled in school as a kid, Charlie Cox still decided to move full steam ahead and pursue his passion anyway. After he left the Sherborne School, he enrolled himself in the prestigious Bristol Old Vic Theatre School, founded by Sir Laurence Olivier himself. But he eventually dropped out when a certain someone made him an offer he couldn't refuse. It was the role of Lorenzo, opposite the phenomenal acting legend Al Pacino in the 2004 film The Merchant of Venice by Michael Radford. I don't blame him one bit. Getting the chance to work with a legend like Al Pacino should be the only reason you drop out of training. The role pried him away from the infamous drama school and launched him smack dab in the middle of an acting career in the early 2000s. In fact, the entire experience led to a friendship between the two, and Cox described Al Pacino calling him to wish happy birthday on his 21st as one of the most bizarre things that's ever happened to him. Inspired by the entire experience and the warmth of Pacino's friendship, Cox hasn't looked back. What an incredible thing to happen at the start of your career. The legacy actor really is one lucky guy. Despite his major success in the world of acting since his days with Al Pacino, you might be shocked to discover this one well-known secret. The actor doesn't use social media. Yep, unlike the majority of stars in the 21st century, Charlie Cox hasn't been drawn to the allure of social media yet. Now, you might be thinking, how the heck does he survive without Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram? But it's true. The actor has shunned them all. Yes, all of them. Well, nowadays we just kinda expect people to have social media accounts, especially our fave celebrities. Charlie just isn't that guy. In fact, the actor is quite happy that he hasn't jumped on this crazy social media bandwagon. He claims that he's secretly proud that he hasn't been sucked in yet. And if that were to ever change, Oprah Winfrey would be the one he'd give a follow. Oprah's a lucky woman for sure. Currently though, he has no plans to welcome any sort of social media platforms in life, especially considering the fact that he's actually a very private person. Cox only wants to be in the limelight when it's something related to work. Well, I'd probably die without my daily dose of social media, but hey, to each their own, I guess. Well, that's all I have on all the secrets Charlie Cox doesn't want you to know about.